Today we are going to step into a completely different kind of journey that is called migration. My guest today is a Danish filmmaker who decided to risk his life to document one of the world's more dangerous migration routes.
Then I decided that I want to build up a film project crossing the jungle myself. And I crossed together with about 2,000 migrants on a 4 day journey. And then I filmed the journey, specifically one family from Venezuela to tell their story. And it was a very extreme experience, the Darién Gap jungle.
Would you like to tell us about this purpose that you had with this film?
Yes, the purpose is to put human faces on migration, because we talk a lot about migrants in Europe and also in the US, but we normally talk about migrants in numbers. Here in Europe, we say that 500 migrants drowned in the Mediterranean, and in the US, they say that 20,000 is standing at the border. But we don't see these often as people, as individuals. So the entire purpose of my project is to put human faces on migrants, to let us see them as the persons they are, to get into their desires and their dreams and their reasons, and of course also their rights to migrants. So I'm not advocating for letting in migrants or stopping migrants. That's not part of my agenda. I want to humanize the subject so we can understand it better.
So please, grab a cup of coffee or tea, get comfortable, and enjoy this episode. Welcome to the Brilliantly Branded podcast.
So welcome back to the Brilliantly Branded podcast, where the purpose is women empowerment through the lens of branding. I have been saying this multiple times, and women empowerment is not just about women. It's about support and awareness about how we can become better together. That's the reason why today we are going to step into a completely different kind of journey that is called migration, and something that goes deep into the jungle, into the heart of Darién Gap, which is part of my origin country, Colombia, in the Pacific coast. So we will be hearing a story that gets into the life of people migrating through and how this story came up after this. So my guest today is a Danish filmmaker who decided to risk his life to document one, and he's going to tell us the story and give us more detail. But how he decided to document one of the world's more dangerous migration routes, and that really plays few people that are there to do that, to enter that, and actually capture a film. But makes the story of Rasmus. Rasmus, welcome to the Brilliant Branded podcast. I'm going to invite you to introduce yourself a little bit and give us a little bit of context about what this is a story about and how do you want to tell the story to the world.
Well, thanks for letting me in. I'm happy to be here. Well, yeah, my name is Rasmus Krath. I'm a Danish adventurer and filmmaker. Have used my life to travel various parts of the world and have made films before. One from Somalia about the Somali pirates. And the last years I've been looking for a new project. And 2 years ago I was traveling in Colombia, basically just to do a presentation of the country. And then I heard about this migration route that goes through the Darién Gap jungle, which is the lawless jungle area that connects Colombia with Panama, and therefore also South America with North America. And I went there to check out the conditions, and I got very touched and moved by seeing many of the migrants who risked their life on entering the jungle. And then I decided that I want to build up a film project crossing the jungle myself. And I used a year on preparations. And then last year I went there and I crossed together with about 2,000 migrants on a 4 day journey. And then I filmed the journey and followed many migrants, but specifically one family from Venezuela to tell their story. And it was a very extreme experience. The Darién Gap jungle, maybe people can see it here. If we have South America, then Darién is the small connection here up between Panama and then continue up to Central America. And yes, it was It was very harsh to cross the jungle. It's dangerous. The area is lawless. Neither Panama or Colombia has the control of the jungle area, and there's no roads, there's no towns, no cities. It's the only place that has not been possible to construct the Pan American Highway. So therefore, the migrants, they wander into, well, nothingness, but steep mountains, deep rivers, and harsh jungle area with insects, snakes, and everything. So it's not for children, even though there unfortunately are a lot of children on the route.
Yeah, actually, the family that you follow have children as well, if I understood well.
Yes, it was a Venezuela family with three small children of 5, 6, and 7.
Well, I am really wanted to know more details about that. But one of clarification that I wanted to give is actually the storytelling that you are building behind the film as well is not a political statement, but it's a human one. So it's how you live that story. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about this purpose that you had with this film?
Yes, the purpose is to put human faces on migration, because we talk a lot about migrants in Europe and also in the US, but we normally talk about migrants in numbers. Here in Europe, we say that 500 migrants drowned in the Mediterranean, and in the US, they say that 20,000 is standing at the border. But we don't see these often as people, as individuals. So the entire purpose of my project is to put human faces on migrants, to let us see them as the persons they are, uh, to get into their desires and their dreams and their reasons, and of course also their fight to migrate. So it's not, I'm not advocating for letting in migrants or stopping migrants. That's not part of my agenda. I want to humanize the subject so we can understand it better.
Yeah, I wanted to do this clarification because for me it's key about the message that you want to put across because of that. And based on what you have been doing your entire life, I mean, working as a filmmaker for years, what is this, for me, feel that this project is different and different for you? So something more personal. I mean, having the risk, getting and jumping in something more dangerous. So what made you decide to really take this story and enter the Darién jungle because it's very specific one.
Yeah, well, there's several reasons. Partly, I've always heard about the Darien. It's like one of the last wildernesses in the world. Um, but when I met the migrants at the first time there in 23, then at that time I didn't cross. I was very touched and moved about the courage and the will. Um, and the dreams that people can have, and also the reasons that make people leave their house, their country, their home, their family, and just put a few things in a backpack and then search for a new life. So I got personally very moved, and that is also why the project is about putting human faces on migration, because it's about people, it's about persons. And when I crossed the entire jungle last year, I got extremely moved, cried many times, also meeting some of the people and having conversations with them. And the family from Venezuela, I'm still today in contact with them every day. So we've been following each other after crossing the jungle. So that made it worth for me risking also part of my own life, because I was so personally engaged with it that I basically I could not do it. Um, and then I think the story is very important because very few stories get out about migrants as the persons and individuals as they are. And I saw the possibility that's being an adventure. This is, well, also a kind of an adventure. It's a journey. And while traveling together with people, you could get to know them. So I saw that this was the thing that I'm made to do,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. Well, and in terms of communications and gaining the trust of people, because when you decide, okay, I'm going to jump there, and then I'm going to film. Which people did you choose to film? I understood it's the family, but why did you choose them? And how did you gain their trust for you to be able to film them?
Well, I filmed basically everyone who wanted to be filmed, and most people did. Most people want to tell the story. I also talked a lot with other people, but I had decided before going that I would try to find a family from Venezuela because that would be most representative. Because most of the migrants are from Venezuela, and there are many families, and especially many kids. So if I could find a family from Venezuela and follow them, um, then it could be the best way to tell the story about the Darien migration. And then I luckily bumped into them on the first day, and we sat down and talked, and they told me the story, and I asked if I could follow them, and we've walked together for some hours, and I told them about my film project, and then they said yes right away that I could follow them through the jungle and tell their story. So the trust gaining was basically not a problem, and it was not in the Darien, neither with other migrants. People were very open and wanting to tell their story, and there was kind of togetherness in the jungle. People helped each other, and people were dependent on each other. So you did not need to sit down and talk for hours to get contact to people. It was just right there. You could meet someone, and then 2 minutes later, you were in a deep conversation, and people were telling their background story.
Wow, that is amazing. I can imagine how many things you have learned from those people living this moment and living this process of crossing with all the challenges and all the things. And I am thinking as well in the mothers, in the women and the kids, how they are assuming this new role in life. Like we need to cross and risk our life, and we need to get out of this. So, do you have any story related, especially with the family that you film? The role of the each of the members, the woman as a mother, the kids, each of those members that probably given a mark on you in order to learn from them something that it is meaningful.
Well, yeah, this family, they had like a cooperation. The mother and father, they worked together on getting through and taking care of the children, because one thing is to cross the jungle and walk all the time and sometimes carry the children, but the other thing is also maintaining the family and being a family. So the children were still children, and sometimes they were playing in the water, and sometimes they should have food, and the shoelaces should be tightened, and all the things that you do in a normal family on a in every country should also be done in there, and they cooperated about it. They were very good together in the jungle, and the kids, they were sometimes crying and other times laughing, and I think it must have been very difficult to be parent taking responsibility of your kids and drag them through this. And I've talked to the mother a lot after, and she said also that was something of some of the worst things. It was like to take the choice not only for yourself but also for your children, to risk the crossing of the jungle.
I can imagine how many stories around that, and how at the same time your mission was filming a process, tell a story. But I can imagine how hard sometimes it was for you. Can you share with us one of those stories that really was a moment that you really felt like, well, how I decide to start this journey, or maybe feeling grateful for being there?
Well, there were many difficult moments, especially while doing the filming, because I had the camera in my hand most times, and sometimes we were crawling on very steep cliffs, and it was very difficult, and I fell a lot of times. And I was also a bit risky by not putting the camera in the pocket, but keep filming. But there was one time we were crossing a river, and I was walking just behind the father of the family, and it was a kind of deep river, and he was carrying two of the daughters on his back, and I was filming in the water. I was standing in the water to around here, and then he fell with the daughters, and that is one of the most dangerous things. Many children, they die because they're taken by the rivers. And I was filming that, and I also had my backpack, and they needed help. So I had the camera in the one hand, and I took the other hand out to reach the father so he could get up again. And then I was almost falling as well. And I thought, is this the moment where everything ends? But luckily, we managed, all of us, to get up. And then I stayed at that point because behind me, then another father was coming with two kids, and he also needed a hand. So that was a moment where it almost went in the wrong direction, but it still made sense to keep on filming, because it was also that was some of the moments that should be documented, and not putting the camera in the pocket every time it got dangerous.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, it's doing that at the same time, filming, documented, and knowing what is the right moment that people will like to see. And you have been collecting all this information, all this film and process. And how are you going to build the story? Or you already have the story, already launched the film? Or what is the process that you are going through right now?
When we are editing right now, I'm working together with two editors, and we're discussing. We have put together a lot of material, also made trailers and all that stuff. And then we are discussing whether to keep the film only about the Darien crossing or let it go, because I followed the family up through the rest of Central America. So maybe we will add that story as well, because that's also part of the migration. So that we are discussing at the moment.
Wow, that is already an important part of the process of elaboration of the film in order to make that more impactful. And I will love to know what are the more thoughtful lessons learned that probably you can spread right now with our audience in order for them to have from you what have you learned that the people can see, because what you live is unique. I mean, taking the risk, putting your life on risk and going there and filming that. So what is this most beautiful message that you would like to put across right now?
Well, a beautiful message is that in the jungle, everybody helped everybody. Every time there was a dangerous spot, um, people were giving each other arms, and men were carrying children and babies up and down mountainsides. So that I've definitely learned the warmness and the hospitality. But then also that migration it's a question of that people really can't see any future where they are. Um, so they feel forced. Most people, they don't want to migrate. It's not like something they do because they think, oh, now everything will be a lot better. Most people felt forced to do it because they couldn't survive anymore. And then it takes a lot of courage. So I'm impressed by many migrants, the courage to put a few things in the backpack, yeah, and then take a long journey, thousands of kilometers, in the hope to get to a place where they can survive, and then earn money to return again. Because that's a lesson that I also learned that many people probably don't think about. Most of the migrants that I met, they wanted to go to the US, but they didn't want to stay in the US the rest of their lives. They wanted to go there to find a decent job and earn enough money to be able to return to the home country and build up a sustainable life. So migrants are not necessarily seeking to change country. They're just seeking a way to survive and earn money to build up a life in their own country.
Yeah, that is true. I'm feeling so identified with that. I came to live abroad many years ago, but I always wanted and feeling very proud of my roots in Colombia, and seeing the case of migration in these conditions that is very different to the conditions that I am living, as well as a lot of lessons to learn across the film when you put it this outside, and actually to see a reality that not many people wanted to address because are not part of that. So I think this is very touching, and that's the reason why I want you to come and tell your story, because for me, it's a way to generate this awareness about what is happening to others, in which we can, in certain way, add value. We can show what is the reality for us to understand sometimes where the people are coming from.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And also, a lesson or an important thing to state is that almost all the migrants that I met, and it has been thousands, are just normal people like you and me. It's not criminals, or they don't have any special or bad intentions. It's just family people or young people seeking a better life and economy, but normal people.
Yeah. Yeah, you are completely right. And it's incredible that we have to make this clarification nowadays, like
Yeah, but
normal
many
people
people are
like you and me.
afraid. So,
Yeah.
and then I can understand the afraidness that many people feel towards migration, but the afraidness should not be about bad people coming. It's just like normal people seeking economy, basically.
Seeking a better life. And
Yeah.
yeah, you are completely right. And I don't know if you want to add something else, but one thing that I heard from you in our previous conversation, it was actually how you establish a connection with this family and how you are following them in certain way to see what they are doing and how they are doing. I'm curious about how they are doing, if they achieve their goal to be in the place that they will expect it to become a better place to live or not, or what happened after that.
Well, after getting out of the jungle, they travel up through Central America, which is not easy either. They got kidnapped in Guatemala once by a gang, and they've been held up with gunpoint at Mexico, and they're still on the journey. They've not reached the final destination yet. So, because especially in northern Mexico, it's very dangerous for migrants to go between Mexico City and up to the border, because a lot of Mexican gangs are kidnapping migrants and demanding ransoms to let them pass. So many, they establish themselves temporarily somewhere to wait for the right moment. And now also with the new Trump administration and new immigration policies, many people are waiting to see what will happen, how will all of this play out before they move on.
Yeah, you just make me think about the power of appreciation of the things that we have today, and about what we are surrounded by, in which we really have mostly everything, and how sometimes I think we take that for granted in order to really appreciate what we have. And I am looking forward to see the film and to see how that make a people having a story from real life. That is what I really love from films, and I'm sure that starting by me and our audience, our community, we are going to continue support the job that you are doing, because I think that this is a very good way to establish this awareness on people and to start changing the world in some way. I don't know if you wanted to add something else, Rasmus.
No, it's been nice to tell the story, and I hope people will watch the film and support the process. Also, we're still working, and there are many angles. And then I hope people will look towards migrants with respect, not necessarily thinking that everybody should live in the States or Europe, but uh, just with respect and acknowledging that they're people like you and me.
That is a strong message, and I am so grateful about that, because I am one of those. I am one of those migrants, and I'm
Yeah,
feeling
no.
very touched by that. And thank you for doing that. Thank you for doing that film. Thank you for take the risk to film that and to be showing to the world. So thank you, Rasmus, for being here in the Brilliantly Branded podcast. I think that this is adding value to the community of empowering people around by other stories. So thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for letting me in.
I'm grateful by having you as a listener on this episode. I am in the mission of empowering thousands of women around the globe, and I need your support for that. Help me to spread the voice by sharing this episode and subscribe to our social media channels. And remember, if you want to listen to exceptional stories and have someone that inspires you, please get in touch with me because I will love to have them as a guest to learn from their experience and share their story with you next time. So until the next episode, ciao ciao.